All right, hello and welcome everyone. Doug here with the LincolnList.com. In today's video lesson, we are going to be talking about VWAP trading strategies. Now, some of you may or may not know what the VWAP is. It stands for Volume Weighted Average Price. And in this video, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about what that actually is because not too long ago, I did a video. So if you guys are brand new to trading, you have no clue what this VWAP is, I suggest you check that video out first or after you watch this one if you just want a little refresher course. I'm going to post the link somewhere on the screen or down there in the description box. This video is going to be focused on exactly how I use it, sharing some of my strategies and a couple of other strategies I know of personal traders that they use. That way you can take this indicator, simplistically use it, and put it into your trading business and generate great trading ideas using both entries and exits with the VWAP. Now, just real quickly, VWAP stands, like I said, for Volume Weighted Average Price. Now, there's obviously in every technical indicator, there's some sort of incredibly cool definition. That stuff kind of confuses me. When I look at something, I want to keep it as simple as I possibly can. And when I look at the VWAP, the way I look at this, and this is from me and the trading strategies that I use and the experience that I have with it, is this is what the stock should be trading. It's a measurement between the volume of the stock and its current trading price, no matter what time frame you're looking at, whether it's a 5-minute chart, 60-minute chart, daily chart. That's based on the time frame that you're looking at. So to me, this is where the stock actually, based on its volume, should be trading. Now, how could you use that to help you make successful trades? Well, just quickly and common sense wise, if a stock is trading above its VWAP, you could make the case that it is short term for whatever time frame that you're looking at, that stock is short term overbought. Now, that's obviously not perfection every single time, and there's some other things involved in that we're going to go through, but that's what it could lead you to think, and that's somewhat correct. Same way in reverse, if a stock is trading below its VWAP, then there's a chance that maybe on a short-term time frame or whatever time frame that you're looking at, that the stock is oversold. Now, also a lot of other traders look at this as a line between good and evil, that if a stock is trading above its VWAP or holding its VWAP, that it is bullish, or if it's below its VWAP and not being able to trade above it, that it is bearish, and that is also true. So with those two types of ideas, you can generate trade ideas yourself and make successful trades and get better entries, which will lead to better exits and better trade management. So let me show you here a couple of different things that you can use and how this VWAP works. Now, I got a chart here of Apple. Now, my nature as a trader is sort of a reversal trader. I look for things that are short-term overbought, too short, and I look for things that are short-term oversold to buy as a trade. And my trades here we're talking about are day trades, but if you guys are swing traders or investors, you can use the VWAP. Just move it to a larger time frame, such as a daily chart, and use it from that. This is the intraday 5-minute chart, and these are just how I find alpha and cash flow throughout the day. So if you take a look at Apple here, we're going to just show you how the VWAP gives the trader a little extra edge in making trading decisions. And that's what this line is. I've taken every indicator off of here but the VWAP, and this is over a 2-day span of time. So you see here on this day, Apple starts out with a pretty bullish open. And just for the first hour or 2 hours of trading, it's almost just straight up. It's just kind of grinding it out. And it's kind of melting it out. Now, from this vantage point as a trader, you could be on two different sides of a trade idea like this. Number one, you could be somebody who bought this trade, and you are looking at some really nice profits, and you're wondering, hey, when should I sell my position? Now, I hope, and this is definitely not the lesson for support and resistance, most of you know how I feel about that, but I hope you're looking at some sort of resistance that you're selling into or very close to resistance. But if you're looking at something like this and it's just stretching out and you're thinking, okay, I've got some profits. Should I take half? Should I hold? What should I do? In a case like that, for me, I like to look at this VWAP because one of the things that I look at is the distance between what the VWAP is and what the current stock price is trading. So in this case, when you're at the highs, when Apple is trading at 117 here, 115 is what this VWAP is, or roughly in the 115s. That's a $2 separation between where the VWAP and the stock is. The further that gap gets, in a lot of cases, the further it gets, the more likely that stock will be is short-term overbought. Another way to look at this VWAP as well is consider the stock price and the VWAP to be two long lost lovers. At some point during the day, they separate. But again, before the day is over, they normally will reconvene at some other place on the chart. So whether that be at the morning, the afternoon, at some point, they're going to all center themselves back together. And that's what you normally get. So once the VWAP is this spread on a chart, you can figure that in this case, that these two will reconnect. Now, how does that happen? It's either the stock price itself slows down so the VWAP can catch up to it, or the stock sells off and reconnects with the VWAP. Mainly the latter is what happens. They normally sell back off. So when you see this with this spread, there's a couple of things this tells you. In my case, as a trading strategy, I would be thinking more of a short trade, depending on that gap, depending on the stock. I'm not saying that Apple's like my favorite short or this is the best short setup for the day. I'm not saying that. I'm just making a reference and an example based on a chart that I would be more inclined to short, or I would feel that the value is short because we're $2 over the VWAP. And at some point, they are going to reconvene that day. So something's going to have to happen to Apple. It's either going to have to sell off that $2 or it's going to stop going up until the VWAP eventually connects with it. And that's what happens in this case. It may take some time, but eventually here, a few hours later, that's exactly what it does. It sells off into that VWAP. Now that can create a great trading strategy for you. It also can create a great way for you to understand exits and selling at the right time and understanding when things have gotten ahead of themselves. Again, this doesn't mean that the company's bad or it's one of those things. It's just it's getting in at the right time and getting out at the right time. So there's a couple of things that you can learn just from looking at a VWAP trade like this. Number one, you already have a position and you have profits. It would tell you to start to take some off of the table because you're spread too far away from your VWAP, and you should start being more conservative in pulling away premium. It also would tell you that it's probably too late in this cycle for you to initiate a new position. If it's a day trade, if it's an investment, that's different. But it's too late because it's too far above its VWAP and it may be short-term overbought. So your value isn't there to the upside. And if you don't have a trade, it could tell you if you had to make one and there was like a gun to your head, you'd go for the short because that's probably what's going to happen. And in that case, this is what does happen. It comes back into its VWAP. Now, another way to look at this as well is it's very important to me as a trader as whether one can hold its VWAP. So when I look at something like this, if I reversal trade, and that's normally what I do as a trader, is I'm looking to short stocks that go up a lot. I'm looking to buy stocks that go down a lot. I use this VWAP as my target. So if I kind of open this up a little bit more and show you what it looked like first thing in the morning, as this thing dropped down into support right here, and you got these two small back-to-back wicks here, building support at the 174s. This could be a great long right here. Once you see this, stop at low of day, and then targeting your VWAPs back up into this area. Now, that's not the hugest range, but you'll see in other stocks, sometimes that's further. I'd like to see them, for me personally, I'd want to see a little bit more selling than that. That's not quite enough for me. But I think you understand the example there of how once it rolls over, you sells down, you look for some support. Your initial target for me, when I'm countering, should be the VWAP. If I'm shorting up here, my initial target is also the recent support plus the VWAP, which is where this thing ended up in the 116s. So using it as a target when you're reversal trading is a great way because normally that's where it will come back to. The second type of trading strategy to use with this as well is buying it or shorting it once it has reconnected with the VWAP. So there's a couple of trades here I'll show you just on this chart. Let's say you did not take this trade. It just didn't set up. You overslept or you were too slow like I am sometimes. And then this thing goes parabolic up here and you're like, I want to get in this stock. We've all been in this, right, as traders. Hey, I want to get in this stock. I missed it. Well, maybe you didn't. Patience really pays off in the market. So once this thing's gone parabolic, rather than just blindly buy into this, because this is a terrible place to execute. You don't have enough data for the day. You don't know everything that's going on here. It's just too steep, it's too much, too fast. It's just not the best place to put your money. What you may want to do here, what I'll often do, is look for this thing to come back to the VWAP and build a base. And you see this is what it does. It comes right here up to the 116.50 area, immediately sells off and runs straight back to where? Back to the VWAP of 115-ish. So it comes right back into that VWAP. Then what it does is it holds for about 5-6 minutes. Then from there, it makes this second press upward. So this here in this case is if you missed the long, then you have another opportunity. So you look for the stock that goes very strong in the morning and then let it pull back into the VWAP and then buy it there. Then you have possibly a short trade up here back into VWAP. And then see what it does here again is that it holds this VWAP late in the day. And then what happens when it holds? It makes yet again another bounce. So there's two ways here I'll explain to you in easy terms of trade ideas and trade execution. Number one is if you're a reversal trader and you're buying oversold stocks, shorting overbought stocks, and that's your thing. The VWAP should always be one of your targets. It should be the next resistance, the next support, encompassed with the VWAP. That's a great tool to use for a great exit strategy. That's using it as an exit. The other is using it as an entry. If you missed a bounce, if you missed a short, if you missed something, or you're just initially trying to enter a position, you can use the VWAP as an entry point. Because when a stock trades down into the VWAP or up into the VWAP, you will normally see it start to struggle. There's always a period of hesitation. So when this thing sold back into the VWAP, look, it spent a few minutes fighting it before holding. It spent a lawful long time later in the day, right here, trying to get through it, and then it finally did, but it stayed clustered. So you can kind of see how the VWAP is where a stock should be, how at some point they're going to reconnect in the future, and how important it is and used by traders everywhere practically, technical analysis traders, how this thing is used to make trade ideas and also to help you with your exit. Now, there's also a theory that goes behind this as well. It's the line between good and evil, bullish and bearish, and there's a lot of truth to that too. So when you look at Apple overall this day, it was a bullish chart. And mainly one of the reasons it was bullish is it managed to always hang on to its VWAP. Yes, there were buying pressure throughout the day and spikes. There were sells throughout the day. But overall, when you block out the noise and you look at the VWAP, it was able to hold that. So see, what we do sometimes as well as traders is we kind of like micromanage every little small tick in the marketplace. And that's what leads to making, forced trades, revenge trades, all kinds of different emotions. But when you kind of just stop looking at the chart overall, the ups and the downs, you'll see that every chart moves up and down throughout the day. But overall, it held its VWAP. So if you're somebody that's looking for positions and you're holding them through throughout the days, you could look at this and say, okay, it wasn't the prettiest chart today, but it held its VWAP. So it's holding support, it's holding VWAP. I can hang on to it a little bit. Now, when a stock goes underneath of its VWAP, if it's unable to do that, you obviously get situations where it becomes extremely bearish. And that's what you saw a little bit later on is once this market, we had that sell-off yesterday here in the market that was pretty aggressive. But once this thing came down into support and got rid of the initial panic selling down here and tried to form a base, if you look at this, it never really got back into the VWAP, right? It took an awful long time. And then finally, right here, it made its way back to the VWAP. So when you get up here, you have a lot of questions that would need to be answered. And one would be, will the VWAP become the resistance of this stock? And is that all that you're going to get out of the trade today? Or is you going to get something special and maybe it moves up in towards the 115s or up into the previous areas of resistance where it opens? I mean, you never really know. You have to be in the trade, but it'll give you the clues that you need. The thing is, number one, that's using it as a target. In this case, it did not hold. It sold right back off down to low a day because it got rejected roughly around the VWAP. Now, not to the penny. There's no such thing as perfect penny technical analysis, but it gives you certain areas. I always said like a roadmap, some sort of location to where you can expect a stock to trade back to from one level to the next level, maximizing your targets and trying to make the best possible trading decisions that you can. So here again could be another trading strategy and idea that once it got rejected, you could move to the short side and the stock gets sold back off again. And you see there from the remainder of the day, it was never really able to get too far above that VWAP. So what does that really mean? If you're looking at it from the line of good versus evil, it stayed under the VWAP the whole day. There was a couple of very small moves above it. It never really got any attention. It never really got any buying pressure above the VWAP. So what does that tell you? The chart's been bearish all day. You know, if you're looking at a daily chart, it's something that's been bearish all month or all week. But in this case, when you're making short-term trades, short-term charts, that's what the VWAP is telling you. If you look at some other stocks to show you that, you know, it's just not one stock specific here. Facebook, very similar. You have a stock that went parabolic throughout the early parts of the morning. It was able to hold above the VWAP, which was bullish. At this point here, where this ramp started and it really started to stretch, look at the difference between the VWAP and to the stock's price. That's too far. And if you're somebody that's trading, I can tell you right, that's too far to initiate a short-term position. You're overpaying at that point. If you're just patient, 20, 30 minutes, an hour, it's going to reconnect with the VWAP. And that's exactly what it is. Just like Apple rolls right over into the VWAP and then bounces again. So rather than buying up here and having such a poor entry and never being able to, if you're a day trader and never being able to get out of the trade for a profit, just simply having that same idea, but buying at a better time made a losing trade or a scratch trade a very profitable trade. So you can see how important this thing is as an indicator. And of course, once it stayed lower, it never really bounced either. So in a review, if you're using a VWAP trading strategy, if you're a reversal trader like myself and you're countering moves, you're shorting stuff that's up, you're buying stuff that's down, use the VWAP as a target. I don't use it for an entry point in most cases. I use it for a target. It gives me a benchmark or some place to look on the chart to say, this is where I'm going first. So if I buy a stock at 100 and it's 102, I at least want 102. That's my initial target. Once it gets to VWAP, I'll look at the market. I'll look at the way it's acting around the VWAP and make a decision as to whether or not it's a hold for a higher price. I should take half or I should get rid of all of it. That's something that's a little more advanced. It takes time with your strategy and trading, but that's what I'll use it for then. The next is if you're trying to enter something and you've missed that initial point, rather than chase, which almost always results in losing, let the thing come back to the VWAP. Rather than chase a short, let it bounce back up to the VWAP and then try to enter from there. That's how you want to use one as an exit and the other as an entry. So I hope this video helps you guys. If you have any other questions about the VWAP, make sure you watch the initial video or leave them down in the comment section. I'll be glad to respond to each and every one of you. I hope what you learned here today, you can take this indicator, simply put it into your charts. Just about every brokerage firm has it. It's just the standard setup. Put it into your charts, start using it. If you need some help with it, reach out to me. Until next time, take care, trade well.